What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS live stream for round 2 at the Canadian Open. Round 1 was an absolute smash day for props. I've made about $2.5K between Prize Picks and Underdog for our main slate stuff. A few rough starts up top. Don't have Corey Connors, don't have much Justin Rose, but outside of that, have bunches of value plays towards the top of the board. So stoked about that. I think we're in a decent position after day 1. Not at the top of the board, which if you're not new to DFS, or I should say if you're new to DFS and you haven't been in first place of a GBP after the first day, usually doesn't last all that long. So I like the fact that we're lurking and going to bring you what you need to know here for Friday's action. So going to start with a look at the course. We'll go through some of the weather, get a feel for what's going to happen there on Friday, and then go through the DFS and prop side of things to make sure we're all on the same page. What's going on, Frady? Down there in chat first. I love to see it. We got James Romanowski, Mark Bornman down there, Tanner Allure. First off, welcome on into the live stream. No Crown and Coke tonight. If I sound a little bit amped up, it's because I'm on coffee like number 3 at this point. We're doing a lot of trip planning at this point for the U.S. Open next week. I'm trying to get some content done for the U.S. Open as well. So on top of doing showdown stuff, prop stuff for tonight, I got a lot of other stuff I'm trying to tackle too. So if I sound a little amped up, that's why. Maybe you shouldn't get the haircut. You're on a heater. Yeah, that's right? Especially if it goes well for the main slate this week. Like I've been on a heater the last 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe we'll hold off on it. But hey, if we end up striking out over the weekend, first thing to go is going to be the hair. And honestly, it might not last until the weekend. I'm supposed to get it cut tomorrow. What's going on, Karoom? We have T-Rez, lots of 2.5 bogey props. Interesting. We'll have to look at the bogey rate. We'll have to add it up, but that is interesting, I have to say. But yeah, Mark says, finished by restaurant list. I love it. You got some Italian seafood, like that. And then you've got some of your own stuff too. I love it. Yeah, tweet me. That's the best way to give it to me. And we'll have to try them out. It's going to be a long week for me. I'll be there Tuesday to Monday, so I'll have a lot of options. Let's hop into this thing. So taking a look at the course for today. One thing, by the way, if you don't use Data Golf on night mode, which is something that I didn't find until recently on here, what are you doing? You absolutely have to. It's so much better. But if we split this by wave, there wasn't a huge difference between the AM and the PM wave. In fact, if anything, the PM wave played slightly easier than the morning, which is kind of unexpected. You had that overcast all day. It actually even rained a little bit during the early afternoon, and that softened up the course, right? When it's humid out, when you're not going to get that sun that bakes out the course. It wasn't windy today either to kind of like blow dry the course as the day has gone on. None of that happened. So the PM wave had receptive greens and without a lot of wind to defend the course, it played slightly over par. And I kind of called this, in my prop video. We talked about it yesterday, right? This course played a lot harder today than most people expected it to. That rough was devilish. In the front 9 in particular, with all the undulation on the greens, when they're running it at like tour level speeds, even members like Jeff Feinberg, right? I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of Pat Mayo's content out there. He even didn't expect it to play this difficult. So I had a sneaking suspicion that might happen, and that definitely was the case, right? A slightly over par scoring average was even worse than what I expected. Frankly, I expected like a half a stroke to a stroke under par scoring average, but you had most other touts, most other projection sites calling for closer to like a 1.5, 2 under par average, right? Birdie or better percentage was huge in a lot of their models. And I think after day 1, we want to recalibrate a little bit, right? We know this course has a lot more teeth than I think most people were giving them credit for, and we have to incorporate that going forward. Iron play is no doubt the name of the game here. Wedge play, definitely the name of the game as well. So none of that has changed. I just think around the green, probably have to give it a little bit more credit with all the roll. We had so much runoff areas on this golf course. Like even if you were hitting greens out there, a lot of players ended up rolling off the green, sometimes to little chipped areas that were 10, 15 yards off the surface. This course is just way more tricky than I think anyone really gave it credit for. So I've recalibrated myself a little bit. I'm looking for more of that grinder type. The Europeans, the guys that are used to these tricky, short little tracks, are the kind of guys that I'm going after. If you look at the DP World Tour event from today, I don't know if anyone watched that this morning, the mixed Volvo event that they have over there, where they have some women playing amongst the men this week. That course is really short, but it's tricky. It plays a lot more difficult than you would expect. And a lot of the DP World Tour courses are like that. This course, it's not American, right? It's more in that Canadian kind of style, is very similar to what you get over there. So I don't know if it's that much of a surprise if like Aaron Rai had that good of a round. Guys like Matt Fitzpatrick, SH Kim that played a lot of golf over there in Europe and also over their Asian tour where they have a similar kind of golf course. American golf is very different, right, from what you see pretty much across the globe. European golf, smaller, more condensed. It's more linksy style. It's a little bit more tricky on and around the green. Same thing over there in Asia when you have these smaller tours out there. SH Kim, right? He came up in that Asian tour circuit. Similar type of players. I don't know if I'm not surprised with this leaderboard up there. I mean, Will Gordon, right? I mean, he's just like always ends up first round leader. So he's a little bit of an aberration. But Chesson Hadley, right, a short course kind of specialist. Corey Connors, right, has played well at a lot of these short positional kind of tracks. By the way, he's going to be in so much pressure over the weekend. If he's in anywhere close to contention on Saturday and Sunday, I imagine he's going to have wobbly hands out there. So it'll be a fun weekend to watch. This course, though, is just such a different beast than what we're used to that I think we have to be looking for some of these niche type players, right? Guys that are maybe Europeans, maybe give them a slight bump in your motto out there, but mostly the guys that have proven at these short, like quirky kind of tracks. Wyndham Championship comes to mind. Let's think Harbor Town, RBC Heritage, right? We were using that as a slight comp course this week. I think are all very similar to the tests that you're getting out there. So it's a new course. I wanted to set the stage, right? We got all that data from today. So we want to make sure that we can, again, adjust, calibrate our models to take advantage of that. And I think that's the important notes, or those are the important notes to keep an eye on. In terms of our weather for Friday, you're looking at the good old AM-PM split. So pretty much no matter what model you look at here, it's looking like it's going to be slightly windier in the afternoon than the morning, which is going to lead to probably a half a stroke advantage between the two waves. Today, the weather, especially from the wind perspective, was really consistent. It never really got gusty. It never really got really windy from the sustained perspective either, right? There would be little patches where maybe it got a little bit nasty for like 30 seconds, but was essentially non-existent. So tomorrow it looks a little bit different, right? Even in the morning, it looks a little bit more dicey than what they had out there today. But the important part, especially when we look at DFS here, is that these PMT times, they look like they're getting the short end of the stick. So that's something to monitor. We look at this NEM model. They're calling for the same kind of thing. I don't know what's going on from 1 to 2, right? There's about an hour period here where the winds completely die, but then it kicks up to the 16, 17, even 19 mile an hour range once you're in the afternoon. So it looks like it's going to be slightly worse conditions for the guys that are, in the second half of things. Let's check a few more here, right? This Meteo Blue model, calling for slightly harder conditions in the afternoon. Okay. This Icon model is calling for significantly harder conditions in the afternoon. Okay. So that's a strong vote towards the AM wave. GFS looks like, it looks kind of nasty at 7 to 8, but that's only for like an hour period. The more prominent set of high winds, right, is here from like 3 to 6 p.m. So that's another vote towards our wave edge. And then this last one, this ECM model, is another strong vote towards the wave edge. So I would say, today, right, not a huge difference between the waves. I think tomorrow you might see that difference, right? Instead of it being nearly identical between the two waves, you might see something close to half a stroke or even a stroke difference. And if you look at some of these ceiling performances, a majority of them did happen in the morning. So though the scoring average might not have differed all that much, right? Corey Connors was a morning wave guy. Aaron Rai, I believe, was a morning wave guy. I know Chesson was. I know Fitzy was. Guys like Brendan Todd were morning wave. There are a few guys on the PM mix in here, but like Gerard morning wave, I believe Jonathan Bird was. I know Justin Rose, Ludwig were. Same thing with Eric Cole and Mackenzie Hughes. I know Batia PM wave. Okay, Harry Hall PM wave. So there are, decent performances, right, happening in the PM. But from the percentage standpoint, a majority of them were AM wave. So that was even with a flat scoring average, right? There was no quote unquote wave edge today. and you still saw a few more ceiling performances in the morning. The reason for that, first off, is you have pristine greens, right? You're not going to get any sort of bumps on the greens. But furthermore, you have more receptive greens in the morning. Even with that slight rain shower that came through, the nuts conditions for the first hour and a half out there today. So that's why you saw, I would say, you saw that slight advantage there for the morning guys. Expect to see that tomorrow plus more, considering that the winds are also going to be higher in the PM. Let's go through our player pool now, start to talk through some strategy, and of course, all of your questions down in chat. So if you've got any, go ahead, fire them down there. And let me make my projections a little bit bigger here so everyone can see. What do we got? Need to get the crown black. I do. I don't know if I've ever tried that before. So good call on that, man. Next time I run into the package store. We have Max Howe says, I love when people wake up sick and can't decide the night before. Agreed. I completely agree. Louis Birch. Bird is going to go and win the whole thing, lock it in. Yeah, dude, Louis Birch, by the way, I'm just going to tell the story because it's a great inside joke, but I think it'd be better if we can let everyone in on it. He ended up taking a random golfer at 125 to 1, little promo bet over there in the sportsbook, got Jonathan Bird, complete dog shit, right? He's like 500 to 1,000 to 1 to win this event. And now he's -4 and up there, one off the lead. Have a day, Louis Birch. Gus Card, rare scoring day, possible cut line. I think it's kind of hard to judge, right? It's a new course. Let's see what Data Golf thinks. I'll give you my opinion on it. So they have it at like -1, maybe -2 or even something in that range. As of right now, the cut line would be -1. With the windier PM conditions, I'd say -1. I think it's probably going to stay at -1. These pins tomorrow, I'd have to imagine, are slightly easier than today. Almost every pin had some sort of slope protecting it. I don't know if you guys noticed that on the coverage. If you missed on the wrong side of the pin, you got rejected a solid 20, 25 feet away. People were hitting like stone cut nuts, pinpoint accurate shots out there to like 10 feet, and they ended up like 30 feet away. So I think -1 is probably the cut line, because I think the pins that they choose for tomorrow, and again, this is an opinion base, right? This isn't like based on fact. This is just based on my intuition here. I'm expecting them to set up this course easier tomorrow, like just from the pins perspective. I just don't think it can get harder than today. From my perspective, and I watched all the coverage today from ESPN Plus, of course, the main broadcast too. Like all the pins were sucker pins where like if you even missed like 2 yards short, you missed like 10 yards short. It was hard out there. It was like they purposely made it hard. Lots of people missing fairways. Yeah, that too. Extremely long rough. You made 400 plus. Nice. You had a pretty decent day here. Mark Barnman says, who do I blame more than Van Rooyen, the expert that recommended him? Yeah, if that's a chirp at me, so be it, right? I played 40-something guys this week. You're going to have guys that suck. There's a few that sucked today. Lipsky was the one that sucked. But yeah, my role is blame yourself, right? You clicked them into your lineups, right? I take advice from other people, right? When I go out there and implement it, I don't blame the other people for it. So, hey, but you do you. I'm not going to tell you how to act. Monday says, is Burns going to be too heavily owned tomorrow? Yeah, I think he's going to get a slight bump because of the AM wave, right? When we take a look at some of the ownership numbers here, if we didn't have the AM wave advantage, he would probably be like 8% owned. He would be in the single digit range. No one would be getting to him. So if we weren't, having this discussion right now about weather, I think he would be really low owned. I don't think you'd have to worry about that at all. But I still only have him at 12.8%. So I don't think you have to worry about that, right? 12.8%, you play him at 25% of lineups, you get the leverage that you're looking for. You could take him at 30, 35%, be a little bit more aggressive about it. That's probably what I'm going to do. But no, I don't think he's going to be super chalky. You have guys around him like Rose, Fitzpatrick, Connors. They're going to suck up a lot of ownership, because we have a ton of casuals that play PGA DFS and even more that play Showdown. For whatever reason, it feels like the Showdown pools are weaker than what you have for main slate, which is backwards, right? You'd think that the main, quote unquote, main contest, right, the bigger contest might have a player base that's a little bit less educated. But in my experience, when we have a wave edge, there's a ton of people for Showdown that just completely ignore it, that just like randomly click in 6 players. I don't think that Sam Burns is going to be mega chalk, right? Because of the wave edge. He's like the only AM guy up here, but only so many people, right, will play the weather edge out there, right? We'll go after those micro edges, like a lot of us, right, watching this kind of research will. So no, I think he's a good play. At least, I've factored that in, right? I have him at 12.8%. Guys like Shane Lowry, right? They're getting an artificial bump in ownership there. Cam Young, right? He's 24.1%. A lot of that is because he's in the AM wave, right? Had a decent round, right? -1. It's not eye popping, but it was at least decent. Made a bunch of birdies out there. $9,100. Like those kind of players, like they would be lower owned in a vacuum. But I guess it's on a case by case basis, right? Like Cam Young went from chalk to like ridiculous chalk, right? At 24.1%. That's going to keep me off Cam Young. But with Sam Burns, not so much, right? He's still relatively low owned. Speaking of game theory here, we're doing the same kind of thing as we typically would, right? Our strategy for these is typically to go out there, fade a lot of the chalk because it's a single round sample, right? If you've watched golf before, if you've played golf before, you know how variant this sport can be, whether from playing yourself or watching other people play. And when people are going to be twice the ownership of some of the other people, when they're getting twice as much attention as other players, you can almost just blindly play the guys at the same like price range, especially when it's guys like Terrell Hatton, who we loved this week, right? It's a Sam Burns, guys like Fleetwood Shane Lowry, who I absolutely loved in my player poll this week, are the ones being overlooked. And yeah, Tommy's a PM wave tee time, right? I know he's playing in slightly harder conditions. You still saw people today get out to, decent performances. Last week in some of the windy conditions, you still saw players go out there, have near ceiling performances out there in the opposite wave. So I'm not only attacking AM tee times, but I'm trying to jam in as many as I can, right? Sahith Theegala, right? AM tee time. Svensson, Nikolai Hogard down here, especially the ones that maybe spun their wheels just a little bit today. Maybe they're near even par after Thursday, are the perfect type of bounce back candidates that I'm taking in my player pool. They have incentive to go out there, make the cut, shoot something under par, especially the guys like a Hogard that are +2. They've got to go out there and make birdies in bunches, right, to ensure that he's there for Saturday. And I like when a player's incentive lines up with mine, right? I need somebody for round 2 Showdown to go out there, score as many fantasy points as humanly possible. And fantasy points for Showdown are all dictated by your birdie production, right? There are no placement points when it comes to round 2 Showdown. So I don't need somebody like a Justin Rose or Matty Fitz or even a Corey Connors. I think Corey Connors is probably the most extreme example out of those three up here that's going to play conservative. He's at his National Open, right? He's in the lead at this point. He doesn't have nearly as much incentive to go out there and pin hunt on every single hole. Nikolai Hogard, he's getting close to having nothing to lose, right? Now, he's not like 3-4 over where he can completely just throw caution to the wind, which is probably a good thing, right? We don't want somebody that's going to play like an absolute maniac out there. But at +2, right, he's got to at least put, the foot on the gas pedal. So I like those sort of plays, right? Just giving you the general strategy here. And Sam Burns, right, just circling back to the question before we move on, I think is a great player to take with that kind of strategy in mind. Where are we at? Luke, I can't even make your wife's boyfriend joke anymore. She's got 5 of them now. All subscribers to my Patreon. All jokes aside, you like Cam Young to do better tomorrow. -2 shots gained putting. Very likely. He was hitting the ball well, just couldn't make a putt. I don't think he made like any of those 15 to 20 footers, which he's normally good for 1, probably even 2 of those around. So I think if we can get a reasonable birdie line on him, I'm not against it at all. I think that would be my main market that I'm looking for. Probably should blame the person that submitted the lineup. Yeah, I agree. Exactly. The one that clicked him in, right? I was trying to hint at that nicely. Tress says Cam Young was inches from so many putts. Yeah, he's so highly owned though. Like that's the thing. Everyone watched that today, right? Everyone sees that. He's an AM wave tee time. This 24.1%, I'm just going to call it right now. I think it's low. I think he's going to be 30% plus owned tomorrow. So the issue I have with them in DFS, I love him for props. I'm probably going to play him in like all my prop stuff. But for DFS, I don't know if I can do it. I think especially the more I think about it, like I mean, he was already like 20% owned for main slate, right? He had a decent day, not great, but decent day. Now gets the nuts conditions. I could see him being that one guy who's like 30% owned. Yeah, the ownership, like you said, it's scary. What kind of builds should you do for holes 1 through 9? Are you saying for props? Or, oh, you're saying for DFS. Okay, I see what you're saying. So here's my take on that, Big R. It's such a micro edge, even when you have like an ideal situation where there's an easy streak to be had going like holes 9, 10, 1 or something like that, or maybe it's the other way around. Even when you have that situation, you're talking about like a 0.5 to a 1 point differential. Like, because your odds, even with a relatively straightforward birdie streak, of actually hitting the birdie streak are still like sub 10%, right? Even if it's a real easy stretch of 3 holes. My problem with that is, right, if you're talking about like half a point differences in projection, that means next to nothing. So I'm not a huge like setup guy in terms of like starting on hole 1 or starting on hole 10, just because I think the edge is too small. Is this Fitz's first tournament without braces? I noticed that. Yeah. What do you think the best score will be tomorrow? First off, the fact that he doesn't have braces anymore is a great look. I don't know if he's just doing like the retainer now or whatnot. Makes him look a lot less nerdy. It makes him a lot more likable, and maybe he'll win this week because of it. But what do I think the best score will be tomorrow? Probably like -5, -6. The PM wave, I think the best round might be like -4. I think they're going to have a much harder time about it because it looks a little bit gustier. Then the morning wave, you might see -5, -6. If I'm right about the pins, if I'm right about like the fact that these were like the hardest pins they could have chosen, that's my take on today based on like what I watched out there for the 12 hours I was watching golf. Then I think -6, -7 might be in the cards. So I'll make that my official take because I think that's the case. I'm going to say someone shoots like -7 tomorrow, even with the wind. Even in the PM, maybe they get to -5, -6. I feel like starting in the back nine was a massive mental edge. Yeah, if you're talking about like from the psychology perspective, I could get behind that, right? If you're looking at the stats, I'd rather see an edge in the stats before I act on it, but I could see it. Am I saying Werby? I'll be playing them. Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I could see why, right? You're starting with birdies compared to going out there and making bogeys. But there are counterexamples, right? There are guys that started on the other nine that ended up playing well. But if that's the narrative you want to go with, it's probably a really good way to narrow down a player pool, right? If you only took AM guys, let's say you narrowed it down there, and then you only narrowed it down to guys playing on, let's say, starting on 9, right? Starting on 10, right? Starting on the easier side, then maybe you could just skim out like 5, 6 players and you got a player pool. If that's your narrative, that's your narrative. I could see it. Let's see. Any correlation between volatile first rounds and volatile second rounds? For sure. I mean, I think just volatile players are volatile players. If you're talking about like somebody goes out there, the first round's volatile, and then the second round goes out there is volatile as well. I have no data to support that. I don't have access to our prop report right now, but can you review Rose and Connors? Thinking about under 4.5 birdies for them. Absolutely will. Absolutely. What's going on, Roman? Sign up for props. We printed today and all year. Yeah, today especially, but yeah, pretty much all year. What do I think about Hatton? Plus 2,500 for outright. So considering he's even par right now, Roman, you might want to wait and try and catch him live during the round tomorrow. So let's say he goes out there, PM wave, right? The AM wave doesn't take it too low. Because, I mean, if someone that's like -4 shoots -7, like, you don't want to have a Hatton at plus 2,500 ticket, right? But let's say you wait till the PM, it doesn't get out of hand, and then Hatton throws a few darts early, then maybe you grab him. Because I feel like his odds might even be longer than plus 2,500 because of the lead being extended. So I would wait. I don't know if that's a number I would take, at least right now. I would just wait a little bit, see what happens. Course superintendent was saying they only have so many pin locations. Yeah, I did see that as well. I can imagine they can move it around a little bit though, right? I'm assuming that there's like the pin locations on top of some of those slopes, and I'm assuming that there's a pin location on the bottom end of the really big slope, right? Because almost all these greens have a ridge running down the middle of them. And from my understanding today, all of the pins were at the top of the ridge. So if they used the other section of the green, which, I mean, it's a new course, right? We don't know if that's all usable terrain. If it is, though, I feel like that's the easy pin location. I feel like it's almost like a bowl, like you see at some of like the moving day pins. We'll have to see. It might be a calculated gamble I take, honestly. I'm thinking that might be the case. We see it so much. Like people overreact to one round worth of data and he gets slapped around. The PGA Tour is crazy like that. Absolutely, Roman. Why are you always a sucker for Aaron Wise? I am tomorrow too. Low ownership in Showdown. I don't think I could take him in for props because he has that volatility. But where's good old Aaron Wise? Oh, he's so cheap, isn't he? This is disgusting. Why can't I find him on here? What the heck, man? I hit Control F. There you go. Not Aaron Cockrell. I would need Aaron Rye. Not Aaron Rye. We need Aaron Wise. All right, $7,300, 3.5%. I already have him in a few single entries for tomorrow. I'm a highly volatile player, but it's the long-term baseline, right, Bryson? So if you're asking why you're a sucker for him, it's because you can't let him go, right? You remember how good he was in the past. I gotta admit, I'm also a sucker for him, right? I also look at that, past form. He used to make like 6-7 birdies in a round sometimes. You hope that he finds the magic. You're being on the same page with them always. Already got Connors and Rose under birdie or better. Yeah, especially because they're PM Wave golfers. I might be with you guys too. So can't wait to look at the prop board here in a bit. Who would be a good player in the $6,500 range? There's not a ton really cheap I like. There's a few like Sung Kang. I'll give you him. Sung Kang, $6,400. He's a high birdie percentage player, even though he makes a bunch of bogeys. So you hope that, with the AM conditions, maybe he throws a few darts. He's probably going to shoot over par, but every few months he goes out there, he has that nuts, usually it's only for like 9 holes that he'll go out there and just be scorching hot. If you catch that tomorrow, who knows? Could be a really good play for GPPs. Have you shopped around? You have Terrell at plus 3,300. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better, but I would almost want like 50 to 1 to fire on him. Rose had some chip in birdies today. Hard to repeat on the board with under 4.5. Yeah, I agree with you. Was anyone disappointed in your week long today that you'll go back to? Yeah, a bunch of players. So the top of the board, Terrell Hatton would be one of those sort of players. Tommy Fleetwood, right? But he shot -2. That's not disappointing. Okay. Never mind that. Lipsky would be one. David Lipsky, I was kind of low on him for, today because he shot +3, but 7.1% owned, still only $7,400. Definitely think he could bounce back. I didn't play Ben Martin. I faded him this week, but he shot +2. I'm looking for him to maybe bounce back. Let's see. I'm just trying to find like chalky guys I'm playing that maybe blew up today, because that's something I actively target, right? Because those sort of players, people just won't take them in the next round, like EVR, right? I know we got the comment before about EVR, right? He's 1% owned, only $7,000. No one's going to use the guy, right? Even people that use DVR this week, right, are ticked off about it. So I like those sort of guys for bounce backs because it's golf. It's a volatile sport. Shit happens, right? Guys have bad rounds. Even the best plays that are coming in with the best form, the best course history, a lot of times have dog shit days, let alone people that are, just have minute edges like most players in the field. So it's a tough scene out there. I definitely let it go with players, right? I'm quick to forgive a lot. Lipsky and no, I love Lipsky. Sungyeol, no, he's a volatile player. I could take it. Does that mean Ben Martin could get it together? Absolutely, he could. Yes. I know he's going out late, so that doesn't help him, but he could still do it for sure. How do we feel about Smotherman as a long shot? I do like him. He makes a bunch of birdies. He's a pin chaser, so I could always see myself getting there. Pins are up. Okay, we'll look at those. Let's do it right now, actually. We'll do some lineup construction stuff here in a little bit. Then we're going to go through some props. But let's take a little aside and bring up these pins, which I got to bring up on Twitter right now. Let's see. PGA Tour comms. Love that. They're going to call it Live PGA Tour comms in the future? Or are they going to call it Oil Money comms going in the future? I don't know what we're doing here with this. And we're gonna get a lot of jokes about that, by the way, going forward. I still can't believe it. I feel like I was dreaming when I woke up and I saw that the Live PGA merger happened. It still doesn't even feel real. That's crazy. Like even for somebody like me that like, I don't want to say I was like a supporter of the Live Tour, but like I watched their shit and whatnot. I never saw that shit happening. Let's take a look at these. 67 watching and 10 likes. Hit that like button. Yeah, if you guys want the props later on, if you guys want to see my action for tomorrow, better hit that damn like button. I'm not going over them until we have 50 likes. There's enough of you in there to get there. So better start getting to the like button. Pins in the cord, sweet. Yeah, I brought them up here. We'll put them on the big screen, Harley. Thigala or Lowry? Thigala, but I like both of them. All right, so in terms of these pins, I don't know the slopes on these greens, so it's not going to be easy for me to determine a lot of this. But I know there's a false front on holes 1 and 2. That's the main defense of those 2 holes. I believe hole 2 might be on top of it. I believe hole 1's also on top of the ridge. So that would be the more difficult side. Let's see. I can actually just bring up Shot Tracker and look at it there. We don't even have to guess. All right, we're doing some forensic work here, trying to figure out what we're doing. All right, so let's go to hole 1. Let's bring up the green. So this is hole number 1. The pin is in the top left. Okay, so that's like an easy pin, right? There's not really like a false front to worry about there. Where was it today? So it was over here on the right side. They were having to deal with like this little false front here. So I suppose you could still like spin something back, but it looks like you have a little bit more room. It's not like cornered over here in the corner. So like, I don't know, it seems a little easier for hole 1. Let's look at hole 2. Get out of here, FedEx. All right, so hole 2's all right, yeah, we can do that. There we go. Pro camera skills there. Where do we got this pin location? So hole 2 is like middle right towards the kidney bean part. So it's like right here where my cursor is. If you guys can see that there. Yeah, there's a slope below that one. So that one's on top of a slope. There's not really enough slope behind it to use, it doesn't look like. So I'd say hole 2's tricky, right? I would say for today it was pretty tricky, but especially for tomorrow. So, okay, we're at a neutral point right now. Don't know if we're going to say these are difficult or easy. Let's keep going with this. Okay, so hole number 3 is back left. Okay, that looks like an easy pin. There's no like real drop-off area. It looks like it might even help you. Might be able to like bank it off that little hill and get it closer to the hole. So, okay, hole 3 is not so bad. Hole 4 is in the middle back. So let's take a look at that one. All right, middle back, little backstop to use there. Little slope to the left you could run it off of and get it closer, and slope to the right. So hole 4, which is a longer hole, has a really easy pin. Actually, one that I think you're going to see a lot of birdies on. So, okay, that's important to note. Hole 5 is middle back to the right. All right, middle back to the right. Looks like there's a little false front you have to hit it over, but if you do, it looks like it's kind of in a little bowl right here. So that's, I would say, like a neutral pin. I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's hard. Hole 6 is the middle right. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so middle right. That's like over here. There's a backstop on this one. It looks like it's got a little side slope to it, which might make it a little tricky, but it does have a little backstop over here to the right. So hole 6, okay, that might be a birdie hole. Let's see. Hole 7 is a front left. We're not going to do this for all of them. I'm just trying to get a gist for it. To me, these look easier. So what? That hole 7's a little front left. Yeah, this is one with a backstop. That's 100% easier. Hole 8 is a middle pin. I already know the slope at hole 8. I already know where this pin location is going to be. This one is probably just as difficult as today, if not more difficult. But it's a really short hole, right? It's a little pitch and putt for a lot of the longer drivers. So I still think you'll see birdies there. Hole 9 is front middle when it comes to the pin. So this will play shorter than it did today. And then you'll have this backstop to work with. And how many paces on is it? It's 6 paces on. So that'll be like right here, like maybe even a little bit further up, like where will be where the pin is. You'll be able to use that slope and get it to within like 10 feet. So I think based on what I'm seeing here, right? Look at this. This pin was on top of the slope today. Now it's going to be on the bottom end of the slope tomorrow. I think you're going to see that a lot with these pins. I think it's going to have a pretty big impact of what we see in terms of scoring. So that's going to be my hot take for tomorrow, especially when it comes to props and whatnot. So instead of going after fades, which I think is kind of like the trap that a lot of people are going to fall into, I'm still going to take fades, right, when there's value to be had. But I'm going to have a special eye out for some values for overs because I think it might play easier than what most other people would probably guess. Is my guess there. Where we at? Smash that like button. Come on, guys. Yeah, hit that like button. Appreciate you. Monday, you also like to live dangerously. Yep. If you just had one lineup, would you be okay playing all morning golfers? For sure. Especially if you only had one lineup. Build in that edge. Just take the guys in the AM you like the most. I'm all for that. You just gave Russell Knox the most Tourcast action he's ever seen. Yep. Hole 3 was a struggle today. Yeah, let's look at that pin. I know it looked easier for the next round, but let's take a look at how hard it was or why it was so difficult today. So hole 3, get the green up. Yeah, it's a slope to the right, right? So if they were like missing to the right, what is going on with that? Let's fix that. Oh, it's still doing that. Okay. Yeah. They're going to have much more room for tomorrow, right? They're not going to have to worry about it nearly as much. I don't know what's going on here with the Tourcast, but that little slope to the right was probably why it was so difficult, if I had to guess. Let's bring up prize picks. Oh, we got a props up that were hidden today. We almost hit the 6-man. And then Sam Bennett on the last hole hit a dart to like 1 foot and kept us from hitting the 6-man. But it was still a good day. We still made a bunch of money over here. I don't even think they've cashed out all of our slips on here yet. In fact, we can just refresh this and see. Yeah, they haven't cashed out all of them yet, but okay, still pretty sick day. Nothing posted on prize picks. Let's see what they've got on Underdog. We're still going to go through some lineup construction stuff here, but yeah, they've got all the categories up, 2.5 bogeys up there. All right. Know what we're working with. All right, let's hop over here to Draftkings. Let's go through some lineup construction stuff, some questions, and then we're going to go through some props. Hole 4 was hard too, so the front might play a little easier. Yeah, it'll play shorter too. So I don't know. Might be onto something there. I'm going to go through the back 9 pins after we get off stream here. Confirm a lot of the pins on that side, but the front 9 pins were 100% easier than the back. If the back 9 are too, which was also the easier 9, then watch out. So in terms of your lineup construction notes, right, in cash, I think you should play all AM golfers. I would say that would be my main way of making a cash lineup. So even starting with Sam Burns, I think makes quite a bit of sense. If you want to throw in Cam Young here, if you want to throw in like Matt Kuchar into this kind of lineup, I'm more than fine with it. Towards the top end of the 7Ks, right? Just find guys that are teeing off in the morning wave and run with them. So I believe Vince Norman is AM. Let me go ahead and double check on that. Yeah, he's an AM wave golfer who shot +1 today. I'd have no problem getting to that as a core 4. Now, Vince Norman's probably the guy that you can change, right? He's probably not a core play for me here. But just make sure they're an AM wave guy, right? Harry Hall, right? I know he's an AM wave guy. You could play him if you wanted to. Batia, I know he's playing in the AM wave tomorrow, right? You could play him if you wanted to out there. The more important part is that you're baking in that edge that you can when it comes to this 50-50 format. And then you're taking players that are high birdie percentage players, like the sort of guys I was jamming in there. For the GPP perspective, right, we got to start factoring in ownership, right? That's why Cam Young, not so sold on from that perspective. Guys like a Kuchar and whatnot are still decent pivots, right? We might still take a Kuchar for our GPP lineup, but starting with the Cam Youngs of the world, Sam Burns of the world all together it's a harder way. It's a harder way to get differentiation, right? You start to have to take guys that are sub like 2% owned with your value plays, which it's just taking guys that are dog shit at golf. So it's not always the best strategy. Let's do a lineup that still has Kuchar in it though. Let's go ahead and take Kuchar. Let's throw Terrell Hatton in there. Let's try and differentiate a little bit with our lineup construction and dip down to the top end of the 7s. Let's throw Lee Hodges in. He's a relatively low-owned golfer. That's also a little bit cheaper than what we need. Let's see. Let's throw in Nick Taylor would be like the ultimate pivot. No one's going to play him at $8,200. And let's throw Thor in there. Michael Thor Bjornsson. By the way, this kid, absolute stud. If you don't know who he is, he played the U.S. Open last year, nearly made the cut. A few weeks later, might even have been like the week after, went to the Travelers Championship and nearly won that event. Ended up finishing in the top 5. So this is the kind of GPP lineup I like, right? You got like Terrell Hatton, who's getting some ownership, and then a bunch of pivots, right? Matt Kuchar's like sub 10% owned, sub 5%, sub 7% on like a Nick Taylor out there, sub 3% owned Michael Thor there. Love that kind of lineup for GPPs, right? My idea here with a GPP lineup is that when my players hit, I'm going to have a really clear path to winning one of those contests, right? And why you're going after low-owned players is that when those players actually perform well, you're not sharing them with 20, 30% of the field, right? Let's say you played Cam Young tomorrow. That'd be fine in, let's say, like a 50-50 contest where you're just trying to beat like 50% of the field. It'd also be okay if you're only in like a 50 entry contest, right? Because like there's not that many other people to worry about. But when you're playing in one of the large field GPPs that might have 20,000 entries in it, 20, 30% of the field might be like 6,000 other people, right? And that matters. That's hard to overcome in a lot of those spots. So that's the issue I have with like some of these chalky players. It's not that I don't like them for tomorrow. It's that for these specific contests, it's not the plus EV way to play. So I always like to point that out. I know we had people pointing out Cam Young's punting stats before. Where I'll get my exposure is over here in props, which we'll go through right now, start to go through. So if you have any questions for DFS, still feel free to go ahead, throw those down in chat. But we're going to start talking about props mostly here. Roman says, we got Lowry, Thagala, or Young in a 3-ball. You said Young 1x1 today. Oof. I got to know the odds on that, right? They're not all even odds there because that's a tough one, man. It's tough to choose between those three. You love these pin locations. Yeah, if you want, we can go through the back nine because, we don't have a prize picks board yet. So it's not like we have to like rush through this. Because ideally, right, if I stall here enough, maybe we can get a board up here. But yeah, let's do that. Why not? Let's just go through the back nine. We already got halfway through, might as well. So let's go to hole number 10, see what we're working with. So I know hole 10 is like a middle back pin. This is a short hole, and you've got a really good backstop there. That's going to be a birdie hole. Okay. I think we're looking at much easier conditions than what we saw today. Hole 11 is also a middle back pin. I have a feeling that this is also going to be a relatively easy pin. So it's like middle back or like middle left back. It's like right here. It could be a tricky pin. It has a little backstop, but it also has the slope that it looks like it's going to take balls a little bit to the left. We'll say neutral on that. Neutral. Hole 12 is a back left pin. Let's take a gander at that guy. This is a par 5, and it's up here on the back left. It's probably the same as today. You have slopes behind it kind of helping you, slopes to the left that are also kind of helping you. So probably pretty similar to today. I'd expect 12 to play easy. Hole 13, let's see, it's a back right pin. This looks like another like bull pin. Like, look, you got the little backstop back there. You got the little side slope to the right. Yeah, like look at this one from today, right? This had the slope right in front of it that people were pulling the ball back off. You don't have that today, right? This is back right pin. It looks like, if anything, you're getting help all around you. So I think 13 is yet again another, hole that's going to play a lot easier. Hole 14 is a middle left. Let's take a look at that one. I'm glad I went through these to confirm this because this is exactly what I thought might happen. Yeah, I don't know. This is a very bland green. You have the little slopes off the left. You have a little backstop back there, I suppose. How far is it off the back, 14? It's 20 off the front. So that's probably around here. That's not too shabby, that pin. I don't think that one's too hard. Let's see what 15 looks like. 15 is a back right pin. So it's like back here. Is it far enough down that it's in this bowl? Because that would be insane. 15, no, because it's 25 on and 4 off the right. So it's like here. A lot of people are going to end up right here where my cursor is. You can see there's slopes feeding balls that way. You have the slopes feeding balls that way too. Your pin's like up on top of the slope. So 15 might be tricky, but it's only 400 yards. So like you're still going to get guys that birdie that hole. But yeah, that is a pin that's kind of like what you saw today. Let's see. 16 is a front left. 16 looks like it's tucked. 16 might be tough. Let's take a look. It's a 400-yard hole, so you're hitting a wedge into it, and it is like here. So you have a little slope that you could work the ball off of right here. That'll probably help. Yeah, this pin's not so bad. You're going to see some birdies at 16. Let's see 17. Front right. How far off the front? It's like here. This is like where the pin is. That's another like neutral pin. I don't think that one's too bad. I also don't think it's too easy. Let's see 18. 18's the par 5. This is a good one to look at. 18's a front pin, so it's going to play even shorter. And look at this little backstop that you have, right? So they're going to be hitting long irons into this. They're probably going to be aiming for the front half of this green. If they end up hitting it a little bit hot, it might hit the slope and then come back, right? So I think this is a lot easier than what you had today, right? Pushed way back there, right? It played longer. You had a little slope that you had to hit over, which with a long iron is very hard to judge. Tomorrow, there's no slope to go over, right? If anything, you're going to have the slope as a backstop. So yeah, going through these pins, it confirms my suspicions. I think this is going to play a lot easier than what we saw today, just from the pin locations alone. Like the wind looks like it might be a little bit higher, particularly in the PM wave. But for these AM wave golfers, right, that we know are going to have decent conditions, I'm liking it. Yeah, 2.5 bogey lines maybe for the PM, but we have to remember this course is a lot easier than what we have for other courses. You have the whole percentages calculated. Sweet, I'll take a look at it. Let's just do that now, T-Swin. That's probably really important information. Just that. I appreciate you, by the way. That's going to be huge for this. So here we go. So here's the birdie bogey averages from today. So let's see. Do you have these added up? I can just add them up here if I need to. But you can see the bogey averages, especially for holes 3 through 6, were crazy. Right? Look, it's 30%, 30%, 30%, 45%. So right there alone is like 1.5 bogeys. Right, holes 3 through 6 right there. And then the ones that are green on here are the holes that were really easy, right? A third, and then half a birdie right there. So the par 5s, right, you ended up making like a birdie on average. And then over here for the bogeys, where you had 1.5 bogeys per round with holes 3 through 6. I do think that with some of these pin locations, that some of the holes here that were closer to like 22, 25%, you might see closer to like 35 or 40% tomorrow. So I don't have a way, because this is a picture on here, to go ahead and like do a sum of both of these columns. But T-Swin, if you could do so and then tell me the totals for birdie or better and then bogey for today, that would be sick. I'm assuming, if I had to take a guess, I'm not even going to assume. I don't want to make myself look like a fool there, but that's clutch. Let's get those actual numbers for the round and then hop into this board, because I'm thinking there's going to be some value out here. There always is after the first day of props. There's almost always a lot of value out here. We'll try, Frady. We'll try. Nick Taylor and Thor, or Hogard and Lipsky. It's the second one for me. I like the Hogard Lipsky one a little bit more. I like both of them, though. I like the way you're thinking they're max. But yeah, definitely the second combination for me. So if we're going to take a supportive stance on a player, I feel like stroke. See, I'm torn between strokes and birdies are better. A lot of these players are AM golfers, which I like, especially guys like the Shane Lowry down here at like 70.5. Cam Young's at 70.5. I'm tempted to take their under because these pins look a lot easier than today. The issue with Cam Young is like his 4.5 birdie number's probably better. But like for Shane Lowry, like, do we take his strokes or his birdies? Like, that's a better question, right? For Cam Young, I think it's a little bit more straightforward. But for like Shane Lowry, right, if we were going to be taking a supportive stance on him tomorrow, which I'm close to doing, he hit the ball pretty well today. Would we take his under strokes or overs on birdies? That's kind of what I'm torn on right now. Let's see. Do you have the totals, by the way, T20 of those added up? Let's see. Doesn't look like it. Just had to run to the store real quick. You're good. I'll just add it up afterwards when we're doing our stuff and go after it and figure out what we're going to do from that. For this prop board, I'm going to need these averages before I do anything, honestly. Like, especially because it's a brand new golf course, I don't have a baseline to go off of. I can leave you guys with some thoughts, right? We don't have the prize picks board yet, but I'm assuming we might get better pricing over there. You have all these guys at 4.5 birdies. I can't think that they're going to have everyone at 4.5 birdies. I'm imagining you're probably going to have guys at 4. Birdie average today was not close to 4.5. I can almost assure you it was like 3.8, 3.9, something like that. I know I said I wasn't going to guess on it, but if I had to guess, it's probably around there. And the bogey average is probably like 3.5, if I had to guess, something in that range. So the bogey overs for the PM might be our like most sure bets right now, because I know for a fact it's going to play pretty hard tomorrow afternoon, and the pin locations are probably going to be the only saving grace for them. It's going to be windy out there. They're going to have slightly firmer greens. So if you're going to take anything right now, right, maybe overs on some of these PM guys at 2.5. And if you're going to take supportive stances, I think it's kind of like on a player by player basis, but it's either right an under on strokes or over on birdies or somebody in the morning wave. So like, I'll give you guys 2 here. We'll do 2 for the video. Like Cameron Young over birdies, especially given some of the pin locations, I feel pretty good about. I feel like he might be posted at like 5 birdies on prize picks. So we'll go ahead and add him there. But like Cooch, I would definitely not take on birdies, right? Like if anything, I feel like I would take his strokes line, but there are better values to be had here. Like I'd rather have Sahith at 71 strokes. Based on pricing, I think that might be one of the better props to be taken. They have Sam Burns at 71. Like he has one bad round and they're pricing him worse than some of these other golfers on here. Like that's disrespectful for me. I mean, look at this. Tommy Fleetwood's right. He's at 70 strokes. Yet he's playing in the harder conditions in the PM tomorrow. There's definitely value that's going to be on here. And honestly, these 3 look like some of the early value that I got to look at these percentages. Let's see, has anyone done so in chat? Do I have a angel down there that's done so? Not yet. So yeah, if you're going to enter anything right now, I think these 3 props are solid options. I'm going to wait to enter these. Just full disclosure. As soon as I get off of here, which will be here in a minute, I'm going to go take a look at the averages, add them up myself, and see what we're going with. But that's all I've got for the round 2 stream, guys. Hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared for tomorrow's action. We're doing the same thing for rounds 3 and 4, and then I'll be there for the US Open all next week. So I'll be walking the course. We're doing Showdown streams for that as well. So look forward to that. And we're going to have a new laptop. So there's not going to be like these black screen of deaths that we had for some of the other streams. It'll be more fluid operation, and definitely looking forward to that on that end. So best of luck out there, guys. Let's go out there, smash from the prop perspective, and add to the bankrolls once again.